Hello, everyone, and welcome to our webinar today. So today's session on how to create output templates is basically a sequel of our previous webinar in which we showed you how to create input templates. So I'm Diya Ranjan, and once again, we have our dynamic product expert, Julia Young. Julia will walk you through this entire session of creating output templates. And in this session, you will learn how to organize clinical data and how to have a robust single page view of your patient's data. So before we begin, a few housekeeping items. As always, we do have a Q&A session at the end of the webinar. So please type in your questions on the question box on the right-hand side and send it over to us, and we will answer them. We will also share the slides and the recording of today's webinar with you in a day or two. So let's begin the session. Welcome, Julia, and it's over to you now.
Thank you, Dia. Welcome, everyone. Like Dia said, we are going to be doing part 2 of our template series. Last month we did the input templates, and today we're going to be doing how to create the output templates. The output templates can be anything from letters, progress notes, forms, procedure notes, consent forms, anything that you're going to produce a document that you're going to use. To create the output templates, you're going to start with going to Settings, Configuration, Output Templates, and then you'll see a drop-down here that says Output Templates, and each one of these is a hyperlink to that section to create that template. We're going to, each section that you click on is a word processing section. So creating an output template is nothing more than using the word processor section in HTML templates. Now, when I say HTML templates, some people may get nervous thinking, oh, I have to learn a programmer language. Not really, okay? HTML templates are the tags that we use to bring in additional information, or what makes it each progress note or each letter template or whatever template we're working on unique. Okay, so it'll bring in the patient information, the patient's birthday, age, things like that. All of those are brought in by a template. Now, you can use a template that you already like and just save it as and rename it and then make your changes. Or you can create one from scratch, but you never want to copy and paste from a Word document into Prognosis because the computer languages are different. And so when you copy and paste a Word document into Prognosis, that Word document will look beautiful on the screen, but when you go to print or fax, it will have question marks and symbols in places you don't want them. So never copy and paste a Word document into Prognosis. You can always type it in or create something new. We're going to start today with progress notes. This is the output of how our progress note looks. You can change the font, you can change the letter size, you can color, all those things that you can do with the word processing section you can do on your progress note. So the progress note, this is the output template and how it would look. It's just a series of tags, okay? Now I'm going to explain these tags to you so you don't get nervous about them or think that they're, scary. The very top of this tag right here says include underscore progress note question mark and letterhead. So what does that tell you? It's going to include the letterhead. So here is how the letterhead looks. And then we have the progress note. This is hard typed in here, so it's just typed on there. And then we're going to go to the next section, which is going to be our patient information section, our patient info header. And it's just brought in again by a tag using include underscore progress note $ patient info header. Now, some people ask me from time to time, can they customize this section? Yes, this section is actually under forms, and this part here is just typed on there, and these are tags are underneath on the template and bringing in this information. So as long as you have the right tag, you can bring in any information on this header that you want. So like if you don't need referring doctor, maybe you're a pediatric clinic and you want the patient's weight in kilograms here, you can add patient's weight in kilograms and use the tag to bring in that patient weight in kilograms. So you can change these out to be whatever you want if you don't want exactly what's here. Now, the next section of the progress note brings in the reason for the visit or the chief complaint. So again, it's just using tags. So this tag here, include visit reason, is bringing in the information that you'll find on the template, and the HPI template, in this box up here. Any complaint that you have marked as chief complaint, that is the one that's going to get brought in using this one here, this tag here. And this is just bringing in the title right here, this section here. But this is bringing in the chief complaint. So this is going to bring in any additional complaints. So when you're finished, you'll have a product that looks kind of like this, where you have the reason for the visit, and then the chief complaint and other complaints. Do you have to have all three? No, you can have what you want. Now we're getting to the body of the template or the progress note, and it looks like, oh, it's kind of scary. Not really. If you look into each section, you have a bracket that says HL underscore and the name of that section. So this is your title. It's going to give you these titles like this, like here. And they're also, if you're a provider logging in, the HL is hyperlinked. So if you're a provider on the provider's view, each one of these titles would be a hyperlink taking you back to that section if you were needed to go back and make a change. The next line is just a string of notes. So each one of these is going to bring in the information. Any questions that you've answered under that section is going to bring it in as a section here and give you a paragraph. Okay, so that's what each one of the second ones done. The very last one at the bottom here on each section is bringing in that white notes box that is in the bottom of the sections. So when you think about it that way, it's not so scary, and it brings in your template like this. So it's going to put it the hyperlink of the title. It's going to bring in any notes fields that you have, and then that white notes box at the bottom. Now, what does it bring in? It brings in the information that is created under the questions. So last month we created a element or a question for each one of our templates. So here, if you see up here, this is the code of the template. This is your question, and these are your answers. But right here, we have that report sentence. So we briefly talked about it last time. You have gender, which is going to say he or she reports pain, particularly in the whatever area that we pick. So right upper quadrant. And then that right upper quadrant gets brought in by the tag. And then right here, this remarks box brings in the remarks that you might put. But beside that, they have the white lines beside the question, where you might put that additional information. In those white lines, that will bring in this. So you can, on your report sentence, you can have this report sentence look and feel different ways. Maybe you want to say the patient reports, or maybe you want to say location, colon, and then result, right upper quadrant. Something like that. You can do that. So you can design this however you want. What you want to do is make sure that everything that you write in here makes sense. So if you have right upper quadrant and you wanted to bring that in here, you want to make sure that every answer that you put, the way you word it in the value is going to make sense. Now this value is your drop-down list. So if you needed to say be all in lowercase, you could just write it here in lowercase. Then your drop-down list would be in uppercase, and under the sentence, it'll bring in what's over here, which would all be in lowercase. So that way it would look correct in your sentence, or if you wanted to do that. You also have these sentence fields over here. If you have a multi-select or a set of values option picked, you can write a separate report sentence for each one of these. So whichever one you pick will bring in that that sentence that you wrote here. So in that case, you would probably take out all of this, just have result, probably have remark, and then it would just bring in whatever sentence you wrote over here. So just make sure that your sentence, as you're writing your questions, you're putting them in the order that you want them to be on your progress note, and that they flow in a readable format, and that they all make sense. Now, these are tags, and don't let this scare you. If you're writing your report sentence, these are the type of tags that you want to use. The less than, greater than sign. On your output template, you're going to use these type of tags, okay? And these type of tags do nothing more but say bring in these type of tags, okay? This underline tag right here is going to only be on letters, okay? No, that's the only place you're going to see this underline tag like that. The $sign in the tags is just telling you what to pull in. So it could be a title from a procedure form. It could be the number of that question, the element number. So it's just telling it what to pull in. And then this is if you wanted to create a custom tag. So this is for your report sentences now. When you're bringing in a report sentence, you want it to be grammatically correct, and you want it to be stand out or do something other than just be there. You can bold it, you can italicize it, you can underline it, you can do page break or paragraph breaks, line breaks. You can do tables if you needed to do a table. You can do a list view. You can do horizontal or ruler kind of looking. These also are on your report sentences. So this right here will bring in your title or your question. And then if you did colons, you could bring in your result, or you could write your question or write your sentence and just bring in the result. Boolean result will, if you do the Boolean, you can bring in Boolean results. This is bringing in the remarks, anything in that column for the remark field. You could use a tag like this, and it would say he or she, or I'm sorry, not he or she, his or hers. And then this would be gender, like he or she. This means a new line. So if you want to start a new line after you end a question, it will start a new line. And this would be a break. So if you needed to have a break in there or add a unit, you could do that. This right here is very interesting. If you were going to use multi-select when you're picking multiple answers and you wanted to create a bullet list, you can use the MBUL result, and it would bullet list all of your answers. And this one here would give it a number. So if you wanted to number all of the answers, you could put this on your right before your result, and everything that you picked would be numbered. This is or are. If you needed to make something plural and add an S, you could make it plural and add an S. This is if you had a subtest. And then the if statement would be something like, if you did this instead of that, if I answered none to the first question, I want this sentence. But then if I answered anything else, I want this other sentence. So you can have a completely different sentence using the if statement. The contra is if you, I see this a lot with review assistants, where they say the patient reports, cough, sneezing, runny eyes, whatever, and then, but they deny having chest pains or shortness of breath or anything like that. So this would bring in the reports and then the denies. This right here is on the output template, okay? So on your output template, you can do a lot of things there too by using the tags. Now, right underneath your word processor section are two buttons to select tags. Okay, this first button gives you this screen up here, the green screen, where it breaks it out by patient, encounter. So if you're wanted to get the patient name, you can hit this and go down to where it says name and then pick out patient name and how you wanted that patient name. You could have first name, last name. You could have it Mr. John Smith. However, there's lots of varieties that you can choose from. This would be all encounter related stuff like date of service or encounter type or anything like that that's related to the encounter. This is anything related to the schedule. So if you wanted the appointment time or date or something like that. This is about the clinic information where the patient's getting seen. So each one of these would have a tag that you could pull in based on the information that you're trying to gain. This one here, this plus button here, is general tags. So you could come in here and you could type in address, and it would give you the different tags for the different types of address. It might be a patient address or employer address or clinic address or insurance company address. So it really depends on what you're looking for, but you have 148 pages of tags. So pretty much anything that you're looking for will be right in there. So you can write your sentence and then bring in tags to fill in the variables. Okay. Now, forms is our next topic, and forms, the input sentences are the same. They're going to be those on the element level where you're going to put in what you want to come out on your output. But there's 4 different styles of output when you do forms. Forms could be like your specialty templates, your clinic forms, things like that. So you have strings, you have tags, you can hard code, or you have tables. So I'm going to give you an example of each one of those. So in a string, you're going to have something that looks like this over here. It has the letterhead at the top, and then this right here is hard-coded. You just typed it in, okay? Then it's got the patient information box, like we already talked about. And then this is a string tag. So in this string tag, it's very simple. It brings in everything that you've completed on that template, okay, in one big long string. Now, if you want it to be separated like this, you would use one of the paragraph breaks or something like that to start that new line or new paragraph. But otherwise, it's just going to bring in all the report sentences for every question that you answered, and it's just going to run it across the page, okay? Not a lot of formatting in this particular one. The only title that you have is just the title of the procedure that you're doing or the template that you're on. Then right here, this is the notes box. So if you put anything in the white notes box under the specialty section, this is going to bring in that white notes box. If you use draw tool for this particular picture or this particular procedure, you can bring in the draw tool image, or if you brought in pictures, you can bring in the pictures. And then this is just going to bring in the provider's signature, and that's the output right here. This is the type of output that it would look like, okay? If you use tags, tags lets you format your procedure template a little bit more specific. So in a tag, you would have headers like this, and then your paragraphs are underneath. So what all it's doing is bringing in the report questions that you're asking. So like this says pre-op diagnosis, and this brings in whatever you answered under the pre-op diagnosis. So these are all your report questions, and then these are all the questions with the tags. Now, with this particular style, you can format it. So you can have like a little information up here with the pre-op diagnosis and the post-op diagnosis and the title, surgeon, anesthesiologist, and then your indications. And then you'll put all the things that go under indication. And you'll have your procedure in detail and everything that's in your procedure, your disposition, and then your provider signature and the tags there. So with this one, you're bringing in all the test questions elements at the top, that number. And either you're going to do include underscore test underscore words, $, and then that number, or you're going to do include underscore test underscore result and that number. Now, the difference is if you were using, let me go to the next one here. So if you were using the test question and you use the answer result, $, and the test question, it's bringing in only the answer that you selected. And if you use include underscore test underscore words, $, and that same test question, it's going to bring in the entire report sentence. Now this is good if you are hard coding something, and let me go to that page. If you're hard coding something, you may only want to have the result that you selected. In the situation like here where it says level C3 to 4, I have result, and that is only going to bring in the answer that I picked. But let's say that you're writing a sentence and you want to say something like, maybe this procedure had ultrasound guidance, and so you wanted to have a sentence about ultrasound guidance. Then you would use the example of words, and then that if you didn't use ultrasound guidance, you wouldn't answer that question, and that would not be in your output. But if you did use it, then it would be in your output as a complete sentence. Okay, so the whole entire sentence could be there or not there when you use words, and the result is only going to bring in the answer. So if I put 40 milligrams of triazenologue, and I could have a quick test question, and it could say 20, 30, 40, and you would pick the amount, then you could just have the result being in here. But if you wanted the whole negative aspiration, 40 milligrams of triazenologue and the whole entire sentence there, then you could use words. Does that make sense? I hope so. With hard coding, this is one of my favorite ways because I think it's easier and it helps you have less questions to answer in your template. Because in hard coding, you're writing the entire report out here, and you're only putting in a tag for those things that are variables. So the triazenologue, the amount might be a variable, but everything else might be hard coded because it's never going to change. And when you do this cervical epidural steroid injection, it would be the same report every time, and maybe the only thing that changes is maybe the needle size and the triazenologue size. In that case, instead of having a separate question for each one of these, you would only have to have the ones that changed. Okay, so you might have levels. The surgeon can automatically come over based on whoever was attending that day. The date of service, patient name, all of this could come over automatically. So you would add the level, maybe the amount of triazenologue used. So you have 2 test questions to answer. Everything else is hard coded, and you wouldn't have to worry about changing anything. So this is one of my favorite ones because it's the quickest one to get through the system. Now you could also create tables because it is a word processor section. You could create a table, and in your table you would have what you wanted in each section. Again, the tags of the questions in those sections. So in this particular section, it's talking about doses of Sofran. The start, it says start, and then it has a result question. So you'll put in the start time. And then it says include the test remarks for that particular question. So if there's any additional remarks in that, it's including that. And then you have a finish time, and then you have a finish remarks and dilution. Now this particular template right here is just actually this section right here. I didn't put the whole template because I wanted this to be big enough for you to see. So, but it's actually just this top section right here. Okay, so actually the whole top section to about here. Okay, so so you can create tables if you wanted to create a table for your output to have it looking in a certain way. You can create those using that word processor section and using the tags to bring in the answers. Now, if you're doing a form and you're doing a specialty template or a clinic form, you do actually have to go back to that template and you have to associate that form to the template. So when it says print template, you want to look in the black binoculars and find that print template that you created for that specialty template. And same thing for clinic form, you would have to associate it back to the clinic form. Okay, and you can do this if you weren't in last month's webinar. You can find these form sections under settings, configuration, specialty or clinic form, template, and then select the appropriate one, whether it's specialty or clinic. Choose your template, And then you'd be able, the template would come open like this, and then that's where you would find this, where you can associate it. So the next thing I want to talk about real quick is letters. So you guys can create your own letters in the system. The easiest way and the quickest way to create a letter in the system is go to the system, click on letters, and search for the blank letter template. So let's put this up here. When you click the blank letter template, it's going to bring most of the tags that you need already. So you'll have your letterhead. This is telling the, remember these are the letter tags, so the only place you're going to see them is on the letter. This is going to bring in whatever information that you're addressing it to, the subject, and the person's name. Now you can write your letter however you want to write it. You can leave blank spaces to add information, or you can use tags to bring in information. So when you're in the letter out screen, you are actually able to type in or add stuff to your letter. So that's why I said you can leave blank marks and fill in the marks, or you can use a tag to bring in information. Maybe you want to bring in the last encounter information. That's too much to type, so you can use a tag to bring that stuff in. Okay, and then this is your conclusion. So this is going to be, this right here says clinic user, so this is going to be whoever is logged in sending this letter, but you can also trade it out for an attending provider signature or something like that, and then it would add the provider signature and name. So that is the quickest and easiest way to create a letter template. Just remember to save as the blank template and then rename your letter and then write your letter. It's super easy. These are the tags at the top of the letter template in case you didn't know where they were pulling in from. And when you go to letters out, it's going to pull in whoever's information you put in here and then the address that you enter right here. Also, the subject is going to be in this field down here. It's kind of cut off a little bit. Whatever you put in the subject box is going to be pulled over. So if you leave it blank, it'll look like this. So you want to make sure you put something in that subject box. And then this is dear whoever you address that a letter to. So it's going to say Dear Signa on this one. But if you want it to look a different way, play with the tags, because you do have tags on the letter template. You also have tags in the output. Play with it a different way, and you can have it addressed however you want. You can even take this off during the letter template and type in who you want for that particular letter. Not on the output template, but in the letter and letters out itself. You can actually just override that and type it. Then your letter would look something like this, where it would have the patient's information or whoever you're addressing it to, the subject information, and dear whoever. Now, I did play with this tag to get it to say first name and then last name. And then whatever letter that you had written would be here. And then the provider signature, if he had, there was a signature on file, it would automatically sign the letter and have his name. Or if you, even clinical staff, you can put in signatures for clinical staff or an office staff, and then their signature could actually go on to the letter. Next, we're going to talk about consent forms. Consent forms are very easy to create as well. They are just pretty much the same as the letter templates. You do have the word processor section. You can increase the font, decrease the font. You have different ways of centering your letter, putting the counts or bullet points. You can change the color of your fonts. Then again, you have your tag buttons, okay? So in this particular letter, this is going to be the letterhead. Then you're going to have your title of that particular thing. This is already typed in and hard-coded on your letter template, your output template. In here, you're going to add, this is I, and this says patient first name. This is what this, this tag means. Patient middle name and patient last name. Then you have the clinic information bringing in over here, just a clinic name. And then over here, we have also clinic name. We've just hard-coded this and typed it in. So it's no more than typing and then filling in, having tags bring in information in certain places. That's basically all it is. Super easy. If you can type, you can do this. This signature tag is going at the bottom of the consent form. So if you want the patient to sign, you'll have like a signature line, and you'll put a tag like this, and that's what puts that signature box there, so that you can, the patient can click on it and they can go ahead and sign the form. Now, if you're going to have the patient sign in multiple areas or multiple places, you're going to number your signature boxes, okay? So this would be number 1, and then if I had another signature line, I would have a signature line number 2, and so on. So that way the signatures would automatically come over and they would stay straight. And then your output would look something like this, where you had your letterhead, you had your hard-coded the name of the template or the consent form, and then this is how the name would look if they brought in the information. Okay, and then the patient would be able to click on the box and sign down here. So now I'm going to open everything up for questions.
Thank you so much, Julia, for sharing your wealth of knowledge with all of us today. I know we did run a little bit over time, but I am hoping that this session is very informational for everybody, and creating output templates would be a little easy for all of you now. Julia, I do have a few questions, so let's take a few of them. And I also, before we jump into question, I wanted to tell everybody that we share the slides and the recording in a number of ways. We have it in the resource center. You can access it from there. We also have our monthly newsletter, which provides all the information to you, upcoming webinars or recordings. So you can subscribe to our newsletter. We also have it on social media. So there are a lot of ways in which you can access it. But in case, if you cannot, just shoot an email to us and we will send it over to you. So Julia, let's begin the very first question. So is there a way to have the previous HPI from a case imported under the current HPI?
Yes, you can use the tag for previous encounter, and the HPI can come over that way. Or if you are, if you wanted it to auto-populate on your template, if you go into specialty on the settings configuration, and it's clinic specialty, I think, you can have it auto-populate. It can automatically carry over to your template, the last, carry over the previous encounter information would carry forward automatically, and then they would automatically be onto your progress note.
All right, okay. I do have a follow-up question. So I currently have that set up for previous HPI. So the issue is unrelated visits.
I'm sorry, so what is the question? They previously had the HPI.
Yeah, so
They
the
have it
issue
set
is
up to,
unrelated visits.
okay, so all you have to do is delete that one and then add the current issue. If it's automatically carrying forward for you and you don't need it, just delete it out and select the new issue for that day. Or
Right.
another thing that you could do is, if you have it automatically carrying over, you can switch it from being automatically carried over to a copy button. So that way you can pick and choose when you want it to be carried over and which problem that you want to carry forward.
All right, okay. So then the next question is, are there any particular roles that need to be set up in order to create output templates?
Yes, so if you're creating output templates and you don't have the right, when you get there, those hyperlinks are not available for you, you can go to settings configuration. In the admin column, there's a button, the first button that you come to will say roles. And you'll want to go down to where it says configure, layout, design. And then you want to make sure that you have read, create, update, and delete checked for each one of those areas, because it'll break out progress note, then it'll say letters, forms. So you want to make sure that under each one of those that you have all of the boxes checked, which is read, create, update, and delete.
Okay. The next question is, how hard is it to find the right tag?
Oh, it's not really that hard. All you really have to do is put in a keyword, and then it'll give you all the tags with that particular keyword in it. So maybe you want to put in the word name, and then you get like 200 of them. Just put in patient name, and then it'll give you all the ones with the patient name. So it's not too hard.
All right, okay. The next one is, can you use an existing template and just make changes to it?
Yes, you can. So what you would do is you would go to that existing template and you would save as, rename it, and then make your changes. That way you still have the original. If you had to go back to it, it would still be there. But just save it as, and then maybe you want to take off something or add something to that template, you can save it as and give it a different name, and then you can add or adjust that template.
All right, okay. Two more questions, Julia, and this question is related to the previous question about HPI. In case you get confused, we can send the information on the personal email. So if it's
Okay.
regarding a case, if it's regarding a case, can the case only HPI carry forward?
Not at this point, but if you were doing the copy button, you could copy from one case to the next. So let's say that if you were doing a case and you used the copy button, you could pick the last visit where they had came in for the same issue, and then that case information would carry forward. But if you do the auto carry forward, it's automatically going to carry forward whatever that last visit was.
Okay. And the follow-up question to it is, how can I set it as a copy?
If you go into settings and configuration, I think it's under clinic. I think it's under clinic, and it's the title of it is specialty. And you would go and find that particular provider's specialty. So let's say that the specialty is pain management. You would look up pain management, and then you would go down, and each area like HPI review systems will be in there, and you have the choice of doing nothing or using the copy button or auto copy. If you choose the auto copy, it will automatically carry that section over every time to the next visit. If you use the copy button, it'll give you a copy button where you, on that particular screen, that you can click, and then you can choose which visit you want to copy in.
Okay. So let's take this last question, Julia. The question is, how do we add forms to patient forms on the home screen?
Forms to patient forms. Oh, okay. So those patient forms are coming from the patient forms section in the back. We can't create the patient forms on a clinic level. Those patient forms actually have to be added by our backend. But if you go into the patient form section, there is a patient form button, which will say, do you want to share this on the Pro Check-in and patient forms? And then it will show. If you don't have that button checked, though, it will not show like on Pro Check-in or patient portal. But to create a patient form, those have to be sent to our backend. That's why I didn't include them.
Okay. Thank you, Julia. And do you have that last slide on the contact details? Yes.
Yeah,
I did share our, that's fine, Julia. I did share our marketing email with everybody, but you can also reach out to us on support@bismaticinc.com for any information, for any questions, or webinar recording or slides. So thank you once again to Julia, and thank you to all of you, to our attendees, for being here with us and going through the entire session. If there are any topics that you would like us to cover in the upcoming webinars, we would be very happy to have them for you. So thank you once again, and bye from all of us here.
Thank you.